This Leafs offseason has been nothing short of interesting after shedding the contract of Peter Mrazek and moving on from players like Ilya Mikheyev, Colin Blackwell, Ilya Lyubushkin, and Jack Campbell. There's been some new additions, some trades, but there are some players who remain unsigned. There are some holes in this team, and if you're looking to win a Stanley Cup, you can't just go adding depth players to a lineup and expect it to be good enough. In this video, we'll break down the top 3 players the Toronto Maple Leafs need to acquire in this offseason before the start of next season, as well as some trades that might come based on the impact of these new signings for this Leafs team. What's up, Leafs fans, and welcome back to Leafs Digest. In yesterday's video, I broke down the new signings of Victor Mete, Jordie Benn, and Calle Jarnkrok, and one of the things that I talked about in there was that some trades are likely on their way. This Leafs team is sitting at currently $756,000 in cap space, which is not a lot, especially considering they have 2 RFAs right now. And you're basically sitting at the bare minimum of what you had last year. You're currently looking at a lineup, at least on the 4th line, that's not very strong. And Wayne Simmonds, Adam Gaudette, and Nicolas Aube-Kubel. Yes, it's great to have Nicolas Aube-Kubel in there. The guy did win a Stanley Cup with Colorado. He did manage to get into 14 playoff games with them on their Stanley Cup run. But when you look across to Adam Gaudette and Wayne Simmonds, it's not that strong. As well, moving up into the lineup, currently you're sitting there with Pierre Engvall in the 3rd line position on the left wing. The guy's an RFA. We still haven't even signed him, so it's not even a guarantee that he comes back. So let's start off right away with the first free agent I think the Leafs should be signing this offseason. He's not even a free agent technically. He is a guy that I just mentioned. He is restricted, but he does need a contract in order to come back, and that would be Pierre Engvall. When I'm looking at Pierre Engvall, 26 years old, 6'5", 216 pounds. He's left-handed, left winger. He can also play the right wing. We did see him have some stints at center as well, and last year he had a career year. Over a course of 78 games played, he put up 35 points. He had 15 goals, 20 assists in that time. This guy took tremendous strides in becoming a more impactful player. And one of the main reasons that Josh and I talked about a lot of the time for Pierre Engvall having this success last season was the fact that he played exactly into his role. He didn't try to play outside of it, and he never really went below it. He fit into his role, and he excelled. This is a guy who knows that if he comes back, stays within this system that he grew up in, he was drafted by, he stayed here, he signed here, and he's got friends here in guys like William Nylander and some other Swedes we've brought to this team, hopefully Calle Jarnkrok. Then he will find himself in a comfortable position where he just gained a lot of confidence. The coach had a lot of confidence in him, willing to play him in bigger situations later in games, in more shutdown roles on penalty kills. He got a lot of ice time and a lot of experience. Now, last season, he slotted in here at $1.25 million, but hopefully with this guy, he's a guy who signed two-year contracts with the Leafs so far. The first one for $925, the second one for $1.25. You're looking at a guy who maybe could slide in here for another 2 to 3 years at potentially around $2 million per. You're looking at Calle Jarnkrok, who put up the same number of points as him last season, or around the same number of points as him. He's signing in for $2.1 million at 4 years. Pierre Engvall should know this was a career year. Yes, he would obviously like to cash in, and it's not up to the Leafs to accommodate that, hey, you signed this amazing deal, and it's not up to him to take a discount of, I know I only signed a career year. There's obviously going to be teams out there who would be willing to pay for a guy like that, but knowing what his ceiling is and knowing what he did last year and knowing likely what he would be able to do next year, even if he comes in doing around the same thing or a little bit less, at $2 million, the impact Pierre Engvall made outside of just the points, I think, is well worth it. I mean, you're looking at a guy, he took crazy strides in terms of in using his body, using his size, using his physicality, as well as being able to put up points and being relied upon. He became a guy you could trust a lot in the defensive zone, would have a lot of defensive zone starts. He could kill penalties. He was fast. He was winning races, winning battles. That was a guy I trusted a lot. He's a restricted free agent. We don't have a lot of cap space, but at $2 million or around $2 million, I would be quite happy with signing back Pierre Engvall on a shorter term deal. Give him the opportunity to prove himself over the next 2 seasons to maybe go and get that bag like a guy like Ilya Mikheyev did after the fact. Now, the next guy Another internal signing, Rasmus Sandin. Yes, he is another restricted free agent, but he's 22 years old, 5'11", 179 pounds, left-handed, left defenseman. Rasmus Sandin was also a guy who made a lot of progress last season throughout the course of the year, as well as the season before. This was a guy who had never really got a solid footing in the league where he was able to get on a consistent schedule of when he was playing or how much he was playing. It was always up and down, in and out of the lineup. Lots of minutes, no minutes. So for Rasmus Sandin to be able to get some consistency over the past 2 seasons, I looked at the guy and started to think, this is a guy who could make a lot of impact here and become a really, really, really good defenseman in the NHL, given some more consistency, given some more time. To walk away from this guy at 22 years old right now, coming off the seasons that he did, where he did manage to put up 16 points in 51 games played. He was quarterbacking the second power play throughout most of the regular season last year, as well as quarterbacking the first power play unit in the playoffs against Montreal when that power play started to go dry, and he was the guy that was relied upon to step in there and try to fix some things. For us to walk away from Rasmus Sandin at this point, even in a trade where you get rid of his rights for something coming back, I think that's a little bit of a failure. And most of the reason why I think this is because I look at the defensemen we have right now, and none of them make me really happy in terms of what they could bring in the future or what they bring right now. And yes, we are in the win now mode. We are in the win now window. That being said, you can't look away from the fact that he is 22 years old, and he's going to continue to grow. So 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, he may be exponentially a better player than he is right this very second, whereas some of the guys who are on this Leafs team, they've hit their peaks, they've hit their ceilings. And I'm not talking about moving on from guys like Morgan Rielly or TJ Brody, who are likely the players that they are and will be for the rest of their careers. But I'm looking at a guy like Jake Muzzin, who at this point has already started to regress from what he was at his peak of a player. And Justin Holl, who likely peaked 2 years ago when he had his career year and everyone said, oh, this is a guy we can't get rid of in the expansion draft. Even myself, I said, I don't know how easily it would be to walk away from a right-handed defenseman who you get consistency out of at the contract that he was at. After we saw him last season, hey, maybe it was just a really bad year, but he is a lot older than Rasmus Sandin. He's taking up a big amount of cap. And for a guy like that, when you already re-signed Timothy Liljegren to come in here and you're hoping that he can continue to take steps forward, Jake Muzzin and Justin Holl ahead of Rasmus Sandin and banking on those guys being impact players right now, I personally would have a little bit more faith in Rasmus Sandin being able to step up there. No, he doesn't have the veteran leadership that Jake Muzzin does. He doesn't have that experience of winning Stanley Cups like Jake Muzzin does. But when you look over at a guy like Justin Holl, he doesn't have any of those things either when you're talking about comparing him and Rasmus Sandin. He doesn't have those ahead of Rasmus Sandin. They came into the NHL around the same time, got similar opportunities in terms of games played and stuff, but Justin Holl was able to be relied upon a lot earlier. He was older, he was bigger, etc. Rasmus Sandin right now, I think, is a better player than Justin Holl, and I think by the end of this season, he could be in a position to be a better player than Jake Muzzin or a more impactful player, especially when you're considering he's a puck-moving, mobile, physical defenseman, even for being a smaller defenseman, a smaller player. And you're looking at Victor Mete, who they just signed as well, Jordy Ben. He's better than those guys. This guy needs to be signed back. I don't know how much this would come back at, but we do know that his agent and his camp have said it's less so about the money, the term that the Leafs would be willing to sign him at, and more so about the fact that the Leafs were under the impression that they would just sign him and then find out where he would play after. And his camp was not happy with that. They want to know where and when and how much he will be playing before they decide to sign that contract. Otherwise, they would like to seek some opportunities elsewhere. Now, moving on to the final player in this one, he is not a guy who's on this Leafs team right now, but it might tie some things together here when considering everything. He is a restricted free agent as well, so we would have to trade for his rights, but just hang on, this may work. Lawson Crouse of the Arizona Coyotes. Lawson Crouse is 25 years old. He's 6'4", 220 pounds. He's a guy who scored 20 goals last season. He had 34 points in 65 games played in Arizona. He did manage to score 20 goals, have 34 points, 65 games. He's left-handed and a left winger. Now, let me break some of this down to you, okay? Wayne Simmonds currently is sitting in the left wing spot on the fourth line. At the end of last season, we saw Wayne Simmonds tremendously regress. He was no longer the player that he had been. He's getting older. Now, he is loved here in Toronto. I think he's loved here by the team. He's loved here by the fans, the organization, and I don't have any problem with that. I don't have any problem with keeping Wayne Simmonds either. But where I look at Wayne Simmonds, I think he's more of a 13th forward depth kind of guy. We saw times where Jason Spezza would come out of the lineup just for regrouping some energy and getting back to 100%, or he's a guy that because he was older, he wasn't going to make it through 82 games. I don't think Wayne Simmonds can make it through 82 games either. He's also a guy who can bring some versatility in terms of his physicality, but when you talk about Lawson Crouse, 25 years old, 6'4", 220 pounds, that's a big physical man who can score some goals and get some points here. Not a lot, but he could be a depth guy. Although he did come in at around $1.5 million for Arizona last season, and he's likely looking for a pay upgrade, when you consider the opportunity to go to a contender like the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you consider the players that they've had come through here, even guys from Arizona, Michael Bunting and Ilya Lyubushkin, who proved themselves in Toronto, gave other teams, or like Lyubushkin, gave other teams an opportunity to see him and see what he can do. They were able to move on to other teams and get big pay boosts in free agency after the fact. This could be an enticing factor for a guy like Lawson Crouse to come here. He is also from around the area, and he is a guy who would be looking for a new opportunity and an opportunity to elevate his game and his financial status. So I think Lawson Crouse is a guy that you want to target. He's also a guy that could push some depth down. He could push Pierre Engvall to the fourth line. He could push Wayne Simmonds out of a fourth line spot. He could move some things around. I mean, right now, Adam Gaudette currently sitting at the center position. Maybe Pierre Engvall slides in there. Maybe Lawson Crouse goes to the third line and you have Pierre Engvall as your fourth line center. There's a lot of options that could go on here, but I think Lawson Crouse is a guy who should be of interest to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And now where this all ties together is, as I had mentioned, the Leafs are currently sitting at $756,000 of cap space available, and some guys need to be moved on from. Whether that be Rasmus Sandin moving out the door, or defensemen that are coming in, going out because of defensemen that have come in, or you're looking to shed some salary from forwards that you have right now. Who is a team that has always been interested in taking on older players and money to fit to the floor of the cap? That would be the Arizona Coyotes. Now, Kyle Dubas has had a relationship with Arizona, making some trades there before. We have won those trades, so maybe they'd be a little skeptical of some trades coming across their table now. But when you look at the Lyubushkin-Ritchie trade, I mean, they have been a trade partner for us that has worked out pretty well, and they're a team that's willing to eat some cap. If you look at guys like Muzzin, $5.6 million, he's regressing, he's getting older, he's getting more hurt, and he's damaged goods at this point in time. If they're going to take on some cap in all of this, Lawson Crouse could be the ideal piece coming back for the Leafs. Obviously, you're not just going to trade them magic beans with Jake Muzzin to be able to get Crouse back. We'd have to throw something in there. But if you're going to get players that can impact your team right now, as well as shed cap space to be able to sign guys like Sandin and Lawson Crouse and Pierre Engvall, or other free agents that are out there, or make some trades, have some room to make some trades, you're going to need to shed cap. And there is one team who is likely more willing than any other team in the NHL to eat that cap space. So for me, the ideal 3 players to sign right now this offseason would all be restricted free agents, 2 in-house, 1 you would have to trade for their rights, in Rasmus Sandin, Pierre Engvall, and Lawson Crouse. So those are my 3 guys. If you guys have any differing opinions, if you think they would come in at different money amounts, if you have other guys that you would like to sign, let me know in the comments. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel. But before I sign off here, we are in the dog days of summer. And if you're a sports bettor, if you're someone who bets on sports a lot, or just casually, whatever you're doing, you like to bet on golf, tennis, baseball, Formula 1, you should be getting the best odds no matter what sports, what games, what player props you are betting on. And with the betstamp app, they aggregate all the lines across all the different sports books, pull them into one, and they show you the best lines for every single game, prop, race, match that you want to bet on. The other bonus about this app is that you can track all of your bets in there. You get notified when they win, when they lose, how much money you've won, how much money you stand to win, and how much money you've lost. You can also keep track of your money across all the different sports books you may have. It is a great accounting tool, a great way to win more money, and a great way to make sure you lose less money if you are not going to win. So make sure you download the betstamp app today, or sign up on the website. The link is in the description. put referral code Leafs when you sign up. And that is all for that. Make sure you get on the Betstamp app. Leafs fans, thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. Let me know, as always, what you think about these three players, whether the Leafs should sign them, stay away from them, how much money you think they'd come in at. Let me know your thoughts, or if there's other players you guys want. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Things will be interesting over the rest of the summer as there are more moves to be made, and cap space is absolutely minimal, but we will be breaking it all down here on this channel. So like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Keep believing.